Welcome to part 5 of the East Asian world. Now we're going to take a look at the decline of the Ming Dynasty. The Ming Dynasty is going to collapse in 1644, and there's going to be a lot of contributing factors to this. Right? For example, there's going to be global and economic and domestic economic issues. There's going to be taxation and issues with land distribution. There will be some climate and natural disasters that'll play a role. And then ultimately, you're going to have some external threats and internal rebellions that are going to be the final death nail to the Ming Dynasty. Thanks to that contact of European traders, the Ming Dynasty become very heavily reliant on foreign trade, especially that trade in silver. Now, in the beginning of the 17th century, you're going to start to see a decline in silver imports into China. For example, you're going to start seeing silver production in Peru go on a decline. You're going to see the British are going to begin preying on Spanish silver galleons, right, both in the Caribbean, which is, of course, well known, but also in the Pacific. All right, and you're also going to see the Spanish begin to limit the amount of trade they allowed to go to the Ming Dynasty. So global trade is going to be on the decline, and that's going to have a direct effect on the Chinese economy, right? On top of that, the Ming taxation system, depending on which scholar you address, was either too high or too low. It's kind of an interesting thing when you look at it. And what it really does is what really guides us is what sources you look at. In some regions of the Ming Dynasty, the tax system was extremely high. In others, it was seemingly normal. The main point of all that was the taxation system in the Ming Dynasty had become complicated and burdensome, right? It had just become overly complicated so that you really couldn't get any consistent taxation at all. Okay, so we have a unstable taxation system, we have a depleted global trade, we have a series of incompetent emperors. So all we need to do now is throw in some climate change and natural disasters, right, to really spur things along. Now, the Ming Dynasty is relatively large, so it makes sense that there are a certain number of natural disasters anyways, right? For example, between 1417 and 1609, China, or the Ming Dynasty, averaged about 113 floods and 118 droughts every 21-year period, right, which is how they measured it, right? And that is going to continue. I mean, that remains relatively stable until about 1630. In 1630, the amounts of floods per annum is going to increase significantly, and the amounts of droughts across these time periods, these measuring periods, are going to more than double, right? So that's going to cause even more stability. The response of the Ming government was often erratic, improper, and sometimes even just made the issues even worse, right? You would see grain supplies decline. You'd see mass starvations. You would see increases in taxation to make up for the loss because of the loss of production, right? None of these are going to serve to help the situation. Finally, you have internal and external threats that's just going to cause this entire house of cards to come tumbling down. Now, you never really have the Ming Dynasty recover from the 1449 Timmu disaster on the northern boundaries, where 500,000 strong Ming army was defeated by a very smaller Mongol force, right? This had led to an extension of the Great Wall, right? The massive building program of the Great Wall extended. A lot of the modern Great Wall, at least the Great Wall that we recognize today, was built during the Ming, okay? So that may have helped secure the north, but then you have threats from other directions. For example, in 1590, the Ming is going to begin a campaign in the southwest region of their territory against the Hmong people, right, around Guizhou. Right, and in 1593, they're going to send a large force to their vassal state of Korea because it had been invaded by the Japanese shogun Hideyoshi. Right, these two forces are going to fight each other to a standstill until 1598, when Hideyoshi is going to die, and the Japanese are going to finally withdraw from the Korean peninsula. So this led to a Ming Dynasty's military force that was just ineffective and just not ready when you had another threat from the north in the form of the Manchu, right, which we'll handle as a separate lecture.